Should you be watching India's biggest wrestling show, WXM? Well, I've watched them all, so I'd be the one to ask. WXM, which stands for Wrestling Xtreme Mania, has just put out its 9th episode. Having watched them all, I find myself looking forward to this show more and more each week. I wanted to show you all what you've been missing out on, what's happened so far, and if this show is actually worth your time. Does this show have what it takes to be a major player? They started taping this show last year after wrestlers joined the cause of Jinder Mahal and traded in stateside for India. A rigorous training regime was put in place to find and train the best that India had to offer. They were determined not to shit the bed, and wrestlers would only make the TV show after proving that they were good enough. The booker of this show is known Scotsman Mark Daly Dallas, and he is the first of many examples of what an international product this is. The shows are around 70 minutes long each week on YouTube, but the shows don't really have any padding, either adverts or sponsorship, so it's a nice amount of wrestling to digest. I do get the sense that an awful lot of money has been invested into this product, so after this video please head over there and give them a subscribe. They are clearly trying hard and they deserve a shot from you. Let the Hawk know how you feel about WXM India. Does it have what it takes to succeed? What is it missing and what is the potential here? Is it massive? So what has been going on for those of you who have slipped behind on the show? We have a World Heavyweight title tournament underway to crown the first ever champion. Interestingly, half the brackets seem to be missing, like they're waiting to have some sort of big mystery surprise entrances over here. It wouldn't surprise me with this company. The tag team titles were also decided in the tournament. This tournament was much shorter, and the first ever champions are the Jai Connection.
Japan, America, India, J-A-I Connection.
But when it comes to the tag team division, the Burner brothers have been an awful lot of fun. They're just these two big rough indie dudes hitting everybody with power moves. The biggest storyline they started with was a Mystery Hill faction takeover angle storyline, but I think that has been mostly cancelled. I don't know, I'll talk about some of that later on. But yeah, it's a pretty good time to pick up the show whilst the heavyweight champion hasn't even been crowned yet. Let's talk about what the show is doing well, and then we'll move on to the negatives. The in-ring product feels strong. What I would compare it to is WCW in 1996 with blends of British and Japanese styles. Many of these guys may not be household names, but they aren't afraid to bring the big time moves. And then throw in the international talents. This show is not shy of a suplex or two. I joked with a friend recently that in one match I actually had to look up the names of 3 moves because they just don't come up regularly enough in any of the wrestling that I normally watch. It is very rare to see a bad match in this company. You mostly come away feeling satisfied as the big moves all look devastating and usually they end the match. This isn't really what you would expect with a roster full of half novices, but hardly anybody feels that way, and the wrestlers that do feel that way are normally given the jobber treatment anyway. The matches all feel about the right length. They're not too long, but they're not too short. They don't outstay their welcome. Despite this show being set in the country of India, the show is made for an international audience. 90% of the show is in the English language and about 10% in Hindi, but it always does have subtitles when it's not in English. This means you shouldn't be put off from watching it. It broadcasts weekly on YouTube, so no excuses. They get lots of international talent to bulk out their roster too. In terms of ex-WWE talent, we've got Axel Tischer, the former Imperium member from back in the NXT days. Dominic Dijak, who seems to be everywhere right now. Samurai Del Sol, the former Kalisto. And of course, their biggest star is the former WWE Heavyweight Champion Jinder Mahal. None of these people are washed up has-beens. They're all fighting their hardest to help the show. Then you have the contingent from Japan, Imai Sakura, Mei, Anthony Green and others. As India is nearer to Japan than the States, they can borrow Asian talents easier. Zack Sabre Jr. is on an upcoming show. I've also heard that he's a big deal, so hopefully that'll get some more eyes on this product. They have not shied away from building up their own talents through the WXM Performance Centre though. Somehow, most of these guys are at least 6 foot tall. They've had a year or 2 of training in most cases, and they all look like professionals. This is not like last time with Rinka King. It actually feels like many of these guys have a future in the business. When you have talents with room to grow, it makes you want to follow this promotion more to track their progress. It's quite exciting to see this explosion of fresh new talent. And as they all look like such legit athletes, you forget you're watching a show that isn't in the top 3. To highlight a few talents, Kevin Malik looks great and he even wrestles well. He is a big guy who wrestles a high-flying style. He's really bringing the excitement to these shows. This dude's out there doing moonsaults off the top to the outside and 450s. He feels like he has genuine superstar potential. WXM are aware of this, and he has been pushed as the future of Indian wrestling since day one, a bit like how TNA treated AJ Styles right from the get-go. Dev, the lover man, is their most popular star so far. He probably has the most natural charisma on the roster, but he's not a tough guy. He kind of suits more of a soap opera style. He's one of the few people on this show who are actually funny. He has good size, and he seems to embrace the wacky side of wrestling a bit more. Apparently, he's about to get a new gimmick. It's a gifted Glenn Gilberti gimmick. How is Dev gifted? I'm not even making it up. Elsewhere, Neil has huge superstar potential. This guy looks like an absolute beast. I'm really excited about this guy. Whenever he shows up, bodies just go flying about. This guy has certainly been putting the hard hours in at the gym. I wish they wouldn't have given him the nickname of the Gentle Giant, because I think that sounds a bit lame, but perhaps it can lead to a storyline where he snaps and loses the gentle part of his character. That being said, you look at this guy and he has an aura. Not saying there's nobody else on this roster worth seeing, but these are the 3 Indian talents I could see breaking out and going further. Production values have increased across the tapings. They seem to be listening to feedback from the fans and doing their best. Having good production values makes this show more easy to digest for new fans, and I salute the massive team working on this product. What is not going well? As somebody whose job it is to try and get you guys to watch stuff, some products can be a hard sell. There's more than enough here for the show to succeed, but I do feel like it's missing a megastar. That star that's going to force people to watch. Jinder Mahal is here. Other than the Great Khali, he is the biggest wrestling star India has, so rightfully he's going to be at the front of centre of this product. He's basically Hulk Hogan on this show. Okay, nobody's put that strong. As far as I'm aware, he doesn't have creative control, but it feels like he is always the main goal. Outside of India, I don't know how fondly people actually view Jinder Mahal. How much of a big star would you say he is? Let me know. If you're not a fan of Jinder, this show could be a hard sell for you because you'll be seeing him a fair bit. Other than that, there's quite a lot of completely unknown wrestlers here, which makes my job a lot harder. They must be established in order for you, the fans, to care. But it's not just about star power, it's about moments too. WXM needs to concentrate on creating moments that have potential to go viral. Everybody has less of an attention span nowadays, and shorter videos are more popular. They do some great stuff, but it feels like they never take these moments far enough to get into the really memorable territory. A good example would be on the most recent show. They've got the previously mentioned Neil returning, and everybody is in awe of this man as he comes down the ramp. He's got even bigger, he looks nuts. Then he hits 2 spears, and it is a great moment, but it's over in a flash. I wish he'd gone further and destroyed a team of people. Him doing all of this to loads of people would have made him look indestructible. I say people have a short attention span, but there is a sweet spot. This was too little. The same could be said about the Burner brothers. These guys are like the Steiner brothers, and their matches are just so much fun. But they're over too quickly. Have them in an 8-on-2 handicap match and destroy that entire team with their crazy moves. That is memorable. You've also got several ex-WWE wrestlers that you could use in a big moment. Familiarity and nostalgia often drives the algorithm. Why not have women throwing themselves at Jinder Mahal or Dominic Dijak smoking? I am really enjoying this roster though, and the new faces that have been introduced to me thanks to WXM. But let the Hawk know about Jinder. What is the general consensus? Personally, I have no strong feelings about that, but do you know what the Hawk does have strong feelings about? Women. And it feels like no Indian women went through the Performance Centre here. If they did, we haven't really seen them yet. This leaves the women's wrestling side of things to be lacking compared to the men's. Other than some Jinder, of course. It actually took her a very long time to even wrestle, and I thought she was just a manager. It really feels like it's Imai Sakura and her students, but even some Jinder probably had the worst performance I've seen in WXM, and now she might be gone from the company. Which is a shame to the Hawk, because I would really like some Jinder. She was a huge part of the first ever Big Angle, as she was the mouthpiece of a faction. They took lots of time on the first episodes building up this mystery faction and its leader. We have now found out the leader, the Zamadar. He was probably one of the least impressive members on this roster. I personally felt like this was quite a poor casting decision, and it's a shame that this storyline has fallen flat. I get that it's difficult doing bulk tapings and these things can happen. Trust me, I know a lot about the difficulties with bulk tapings. It is a bit unfortunate though. I find the Performance Centre very boring and depressing to look at. It doesn't seem to hold many people, and whilst the fans who are in attendance seem quite active, it looks like there's less people here than your average indie at a town hall. The show deserves a bigger crowd. I actually feel like this is currently the biggest letdown on the show right now. With a more impressive and bright arena, it would feel like this was more of a big deal. People would just glance at it and say, wow, I should be watching this. They also don't seem to shoot outside, which is a bit disappointing. India's a very interesting country. What's going on out there? Personally, I feel more interested in wrestling shows which have multiple filming locations. Again, think about Bollywood. The majority of the wrestlers on the roster just look a bit miserable and like they're being forced to drink piss for a living. In terms of standout character work, so far Imai Sakura has done a great job. I didn't expect to like her so much, but I also find myself excited for her matches. I also think the Stoner brothers are highly memorable in the tag team division, and Dev is the guy who does a lot of character work and he does stand out, but a lot of the other guys just sort of blend together. They have not managed to harness the huge potential Indian viewership yet, and I'm not sure why not. They've clearly invested a lot of time and effort and money into this show. I mean, they have fireworks for God's sake. TNA doesn't even have fireworks. They have even ramped up their efforts to improve the music and the lighting effects too. I'm surprised the entire country hasn't jumped behind this cause yet. They do seem to be set up to go for a long time though, just like the Hawks, so I'm sure they can find a way to connect with the Indian audience eventually. I'd be interested to know from a Hindi point of view what this show is missing, because in my opinion it's the Bollywood style soap opera storylines that they're so fond of. But I think the lack of female talent on this show makes that hard to pull off. Maybe the plan is for all of this to be a bit of a prototype before a TV deal, because that's when it'll really reach the Hindi audience. Now that being said, I really do wonder where they've all gone, because back in the day there used to be millions of Indian users on YouTube. This is one of the big ones, because whenever anybody has tried to sell a wrestling gimmick to the Indian network, the massive potential that it has is the gimmick. But nobody has ever managed to live up to that massive potential, but I'm sure the investors behind WXM will be expecting a certain return. The Hawks' final verdict. There's a lot to like here. Whilst it doesn't appeal to my wacky and crazy side like a Ring Ka King or a JCW does, the work in the ring is pretty crazy, and I've really enjoyed it so far. The style is different to what you would expect to see on AEW or a TNA show without taking it too far. They aren't going to alienate any fans, but at the same time they might be able to capture fans of strong style. Maybe they could call it mid-style. I have seen some people complain in the comments that there isn't enough high flyers on this show. Let me know how you feel about that one. I feel like the blend works personally. Overall there is room to improve for sure, but man, it's only episode 9 of a brand new company. The main draw for me will be seeing the progress of talents like Neil, Dev and Kevin. When I say it like that, these names are fucking horrible. I'm just enjoying seeing some fresh faces with some old faces thrown in and a bit of a different style to what you're used to. It's lacking in crazy storylines and I wish they'd find a way to embrace the Bollywood audience a bit more. I think that's going to be how they capture the hearts of that Indian audience. But has it captured your heart? WXM officially gets the Hawks stamp of approval. There is a clear effort, time and money going into these shows. The potential is massive for growth, and if you don't agree with that, I'll smack you and your girl both.